So one of the newer products that's come out of Unium, really exciting one, is Luxor. So again, for the grower, what's Luxor?
Yeah, so Luxor is probably a little bit more of what they're used to. So it's a 4-14-5 NPK blend, and it's got some zinc and copper in there. It's also got the L-PGA for some nitrogen use efficiency benefits. Like I say, it's got a range of macro and micro elements. We do tend to focus on the phosphate side. It's got two forms of phosphate. So it's got an ortho and a polyphosphate. It's also very heavily complexed with humic and fulvic acid. And it's got a technology in there that stops it sort of binding on to things like clay particles in the soil. The ortho and the polyphosphate are really quite interesting in that they allow us to both apply the product foliarly or via the soil. So we see an awful lot of it going down with the drill, but then also people coming and topping that up again onto the foliage.
And that's quite cool in the autumn, say when you've got a small plant and somebody said, is it too small? Well, is it going to take up a foliar treatment? But actually having those two forms is good for the autumn. Yeah.
Exactly. So any crop where we're seeing a lot of soil in between the rows, it's very reassuring that to know that that product's going to hit the soil, stay there, and then remain available for the crop as it continues to go through its growth stages.
Yeah. So use rate litre per hectare, but when you look at what some of the claims and some of the results for Luxor versus replacing some soil applied phosphate, for instance, then how can a litre of Luxor do such a good job?
So it does take some convincing, you know, and this is a big part of why these trial sites need to exist, is because we need to be very robust on the work that we do before we make these recommendations to a grower. We've done this now for a number of years, over small plot trials, some of the larger plot trials here, but then also with farmers on multiple year trials on their farm. Really what spurred that work was in 21, 22, when we seen DAP prices explode. We had lots of questions about what we could do in order to reduce the sort of amount of DAP that would be required from the crop. There is also an environmental benefit to this. So we know from sort of government levels that we're being encouraged to use less and less, and things like water bodies where we're having issues with phosphate getting into water streams. This is really low-hanging fruit if we can help the grower to reduce the amount of phosphate going onto their crop. So we are putting a very small amount on, and all that we're trying to do is feed a little bit whenever the crop's really hungry. So the soil that we're stood on at the minute has enough phosphate in it to probably cover mine on your lifetimes. It's about encouraging the plant to mine as much of that as is possible. So we've talked about calcite previously, where we're sort of inducing this false resistance to, or false deficiency, to send roots down and more exudates to access more phosphate. Luxor is a tool in that program where soils become very wet and very cold. They biologically shut down, which means that phosphate becomes less available to them. And they just can't quite access enough at very...
Or if it's too dry, maybe.
Or if it's too dry. This year.
This year.
So when do we sort of see that happening? Is like February to T0 timing. The crop wakes up, it wants to grow away. Soils are still quite cold and wet. Visually, what we normally see are those sort of reds and blues on the leaf, and that is the crop saying that it's trying to grow, but it can't get enough phosphate in from the soil. So we would apply a small amount.
Or maybe for spring crops, we're drilling it. Typically, it's either too wet or too dry, isn't it?
Normally one or the other.
So actually, quite early on, it can have a good place there. I mean, something we talk about it as well is in terms of soil applied phosphates, is quite a lot of our soils, when we analyse them and do a proper analysis, we find that actually, this one's calcareous soil, it's getting locked up quite quickly.
Yeah.
So actually they're particular places where we particularly see benefit. We may have reasonable indices. We're putting on a maintenance application which within a couple of weeks has been locked up. Why not? Much better way to do it is put on some technologies to actually release what's in there and probably save some money as well. In fact, definitely save some money.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we provide some of the solutions to Agrovista that fit into your innovation range, but you have other things that exist in there that all work together to help make this phosphate that already exists under our feet. You know, as you say, mining phosphate in North Africa, treating it with an acid, shipping it to, you know, Lincolnshire,
and then converting
it back into rock phosphate again is just crazy.
Yeah.
In terms of results on farm, we've seen reductions of probably 75 to 50% of the sort of typical bagged phosphate products, TSP or DIP, while either maintaining or slightly increasing yields. So it's really exciting results that we're seeing from phosphate. And just due to that inefficiency with how it works in the soil from applying a sort of traditional phosphate product, means that it's very responsive. It's very easy for us to sort of get a good win with phosphate.
Yeah, so we've talked earlier about calcite, doing not a similar thing, but helping with nutrient, getting better rooting, better nutrient use. Could you see maybe we using these two products together?
Yeah. So we over the years, as we develop products on small plot trials, we've been putting the calcite beside each other, we've been putting the Luxor beside each other, and then one day we went, well, hang on a minute, this one's tricking the plant into thinking that it's deficient and making it go scavenging.
Yeah.
What would happen if we just put a little bit of Luxor on top of that and actually fed it at the same time?
Yeah. And
what we found in our trials, and then whenever we moved the trials onto some of your small plot trials, is we've seen this sort of synergy from the phosphite and then the low dose of phosphate going on, especially when we're seeing quite a big deficiency on the farm. So if it's very cold and wet, last year was a really
and it may be
really
the soil's not deficient, but the crop's deficient because of the conditions.
Exactly.
Yeah. So cold and wet, too dry, which we seem to be getting more of that.
Exactly. So the next stage with that project was to actually look at how we could co-formulate the two together. So we have now the newest product to your range is Luxor which is a sort of 2-to-1 ratio of Luxor to calcite, which we've found to be a very, very effective means of supporting each other.